Alrighty, so I've had plenty of time to take everything in, digest what we saw in the Halo Infinite gameplay demo. I rewatched that demo multiple times. I rewatched the Halo Infinite gameplay trailer multiple times. I scrolled through Twitter, seen what people were saying about the game, checked out the Halo Reddit, watched countless YouTube videos of people sharing their thoughts with the game. And I now have an opinion on what we saw at this gameplay demo reveal. At first, when I first watched it, if you guys saw my live reaction, I really didn't know what to think, because that's not what I was expecting to see at all. I was at a loss for words, and not really in a good way. But now I know how I feel. So after watching that reveal multiple times, I gotta say I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed. I didn't have high expectations. I really didn't. But there's some glaring issues in the gameplay demo that we saw. So first off, let's start with the obvious issue that everybody's been talking about, is the graphics. And not only the graphics, but also the art style. First off, let me say the art style, it looks kind of cartoony, and I'm not feeling that at all. I don't like that. Like, it's some people said it looks, some things look like Minecraft at a distance, and holy shit, they are not fucking wrong. Keep this kiddish, cartoony Fortnite Minecraft look the fuck out of Halo. That does not belong in Halo. And honestly, I think some of the stylistic choices 343 is making with this game is so that they can have it at a T rating instead of M. Halo 5 was also a T rating, and I don't think there was any blood in that game. I can't remember if there was Covenant blood. I know there wasn't any human blood, and if there was blood, it was minimal. It does really feel like 343 is trying to appeal to a younger audience by giving the game this more cartoony look. Blood, there's no blood splatters on the ground, which that's disappointing. I think blood should always be in Halo. Human blood, Covenant blood, and there should be blood splatters on the ground. Also, some of the fucking enemies, man, like this brute right here, looks like a plastic fucking toy. Like, this looks like a fucking toy, man. What are we doing? Why? You know, that's one thing I was really hoping for with Halo Infinite, that we would get away from this plasticky look for player models and the AI models as well, like we saw in Halo 5. Like, people, the enemies and the Spartans looked really plasticky. I thought we would get away from that with Infinite, but it looks like it's even worse now. And another thing that I'm sure some of you will disagree with me on is I can't stand the way 343 does grunts. I feel like 343 makes them overly goofy. They always had a goofy nature to them in older Halo games, but I think 343 goes overboard with it. I really do. They make them too goofy. Like, the brute throws the grunt through the air and the grunt's just screaming. It just seems so kiddish, and I can't take it seriously. And also, there's such a disparity between the way the AI behaves in game and the brute leader that we saw at the end of the gameplay demo. I forget what his name is. It begins with an E. I don't know how to pronounce it. Like, that antagonist, he comes off as being really sinister and ruthless. And like, the AI in the game is just all goofy and they don't seem to pose much of a threat. So I'm getting two completely different vibes when I listen to that evil brute leader speak at the end of the demo, and when I watch the actual gameplay that looks all cartoony and there's all the enemies don't seem to pose much of a threat. So I'm definitely not a fan of the art style whatsoever. Really disappointed in that. And then just the graphics in general aren't that impressive. Seemed really overwhelming. There was multiple times in the gameplay demo, like when Master Chief first steps out of the drop pod, he walks out, and like, it's definitely that you could tell that 343 they were trying to show off this beautiful new world, and it wasn't that impressive. And also when Master Chief is going up the elevator and he's looking out over this vast open landscape that you get to explore, and the Halo music is playing, and it's just it doesn't seem that impressive. There was textures and certain geometry that you could see popping in throughout the gameplay demo, which just looked fucking horrible, and everything looks really dull and washed out. The lighting and textures are flat as fuck. It looks pretty bad. Like, what are they even trying to show off here when Master Chief walks out of the Pelican and starts looking around? Also, when he's going up the elevator. What am I supposed to be looking at? I've seen grass and trees and rocks and dirt and water. I've seen these things before. And I've seen them look way better in other games. Like, it's not impressive at all. And to my understanding, 343, they want Halo Infinite to be somewhat reminiscent of Halo CE. When you crash land on Halo for the first time, you walk out of your lifeboat, and you're just greeted with this whole new mysterious world. And I know they're going for that type of vibe and feel, but I don't feel like that works as well with Halo Infinite, which is like the seventh mainline Halo game. We've had Halo 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Reach, and ODST. Like, at this point, it's you don't get the same feel as you did in Halo CE when you were seeing this all for the first time. Halo CE was the first Halo game, so it makes sense that would work in the first Halo game and not so much in a Halo game 19 years later, is it? Like, when you crash landed on Halo in Halo CE, that was your first time on a Halo ring. You walk out of your little lifeboat, you see the curvature of the Halo ring. That was really cool to see. And you seeing Banshees flying around, you move through the terrain a little bit, and then you start fighting grunts and elites, and it was all new, you know what I mean? You were experiencing it for the first time. So in Halo Infinite, in that gameplay demo, when Master Chief walks out of his Pelican and he's looking around, it's like, whoa, look, there's clouds, the sky, rocks and mountains and trees. Like, okay, I've seen this before. I've seen this in Halo before. I've seen this in plenty of other games before.
Okay.
Like, I can go outside IRL and see some similar scenery. They should have made it look more interesting, more Halo. Like you see this, I don't know how to explain it, but I'm showing it right now on screen. You see this weird, like, geometry, and that's, one of the main reasons people say this game looks like Minecraft at a distance, because of this shit. This geometry right here. I guess it's supposed to be Forerunner, I don't know, but it's just so plain, and there's a lack of detail. Like, why couldn't that be, if it is Forerunner, why couldn't that be, more silver and with the blue lights, the Forerunner architecture we're used to seeing in Halo games? They should have made it more like that, something similar to what you would see in Halo 3. Make it look more Forerunner and alive. They should have textured it with this nice, shiny, reflective metal, and you have blue lights all over it, and it looks really Forerunner. That's what they should have done, but instead you got this. It's just dull and boring. It just looks like something that's untextured. And yes, I know, this is an early build, this is just a demo, it could change before launch, but this is still pretty bad for a gameplay reveal for Microsoft's flagship title, a launch title for the Xbox Series X. And let me be clear, I'm not all about graphics or sound design. Like, that's not one of the more important things to me when it comes to games. I'm more concerned with Halo looking and sounding like Halo. And in this Halo Infinite gameplay demo, I felt like there was a lot of sounds, especially the weapon sounds, that did not sound like Halo. The Warhog did not sound like a Halo Warhog should. The art style looked too cartoony. And I don't expect Halo Infinite to have a significant downgrade in the graphical fidelity of the game compared to some decade-old Halo games. That's unacceptable. It's 2020. This is a new Halo game, new hardware, Xbox Series X, also launching on PC. it should look good. And it might look amazing at launch, but it didn't look that good in the demo, and that's all we have to go off of right now. And please, everybody, can we just shut our fucking mouths with this, oh, it's a work in progress, it's an early build. Can we just shut the fuck up about that, please? This is Halo Infinite, which is a launch title for the powerful Xbox Series X, and the demo we watched, that was played on a PC with similar specs to the Xbox Series X. And I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. The gameplay reveal for Halo Infinite, it should look better than decade-old Halo games. But there are plenty of visuals in these decade-old Halo games that look significantly better than what we saw in that Halo Infinite gameplay demo. There's no excuse for that. Like, I know it's an early build, it's a work in progress, it was just the gameplay demo, but there's still a standard that these games are held to when they're being revealed. And I don't think we met that standard with what we saw with Halo Infinite. Like, again, decade-old Halo games should not look significantly better than Halo Infinite coming out in 2020. Xbox Series X and PC. Like, no. Sure, Halo Infinite, there might be more pixels, but the textures, the lighting, and several other things just look so much worse from what we saw in that gameplay demo. And sure, maybe the graphics will improve before launch, but how much are they going to improve? I mean, and the art style, is that going to be changed too? I hate the art style. Many people hate the art style. How much is the visuals of this game actually going to change? Let's be real. I mean, it might look a lot better at launch. I'm not saying it won't. I'm not counting that out. That's possible. But still, what we saw in the reveal, the gameplay demo, that was pretty kind of unacceptable. And you know, that's what we were shown, right? That's all we have to go off of. So I don't blame anyone for shitting on the graphics of this game, because that's what they showed us. And if the game really does look so much better in a later build, like why is 343 not being way more vocal about that? Like, why don't they come out and be like, yo, guys, we understand that gameplay reveal, the game looked like shit, am I right? But we got it all figured out, and it's gonna look so much better at launch. Just hang in there, guys, trust us. Like, why not? Can we say something like that? Like, no, they've been kind of quiet. Just they say some things like it's a work in progress. It was just an early build, but like, let's be more vocal. Does the game actually look so much better in your current build? And I heard there's a rumor that the support for ray tracing won't even be there at launch. That's kind of concerning. Now, I am aware that in the Halo Infinite gameplay trailer that we got, the visuals appear to be improved from what we saw in the gameplay demo. I still don't think they were great. Still kind of underwhelming and disappointing, and they should be better, and there's still certain visuals from decade-old Halo games that looked better than it, but they were improved. But again, how much better is this game going to look at launch? That's the question. I don't think it's going to be night and fucking day. I just don't. But it could be. Who knows? There was also a rumor that multiplayer wasn't going to be there for Halo Infinite at launch, and it was going to come later on. And Sketch came out on Twitter and said that wasn't true, that rumor was false. But you know, the rumor was that multiplayer won't be there at launch. So by Sketch saying this is not true, that tells us there will be multiplayer. But does that confirm PvP multiplayer? Does that just mean co-op campaign? I mean, who knows? I don't know. The rumor was there won't be any multiplayer at launch. Sketch said that's not true. Who knows what that means? I mean, obviously that means that's not true. But does that mean all of the multiplayer will be there at launch, or does that mean we'll have co-op campaign but PvP will come later? I don't know. But one thing we do know is Chris Lee, the studio head at 343 for Halo Infinite, he said, with Halo Infinite, we are also committed to building the game in partnership with our community, but given the unprecedented challenges of this year, we're not quite where we expected to be in terms of broader public flighting. And yeah, he makes it sound like we're not going to get a beta, or they're not going to flight Halo Infinite before launch. He talked about flighting it after launch, but I thought all future Halo games we're supposed to be getting betas. Like a while back, Bonnie Ross said, going forward, you will never see a Halo game coming out without a beta. The Master Chief Collection was obviously painful for our fans and for us, but it won't happen again. Never see a Halo game coming out without a beta. So, okay, yeah, so I guess that was a lie. There's another one, add that to the fucking list. In a recent interview that Chris Lee did with IGN, there was a part where he said, I would think about it more like kind of delivering on that promise we've had from the past. That's something he said in an interview, and when I read that, I thought to myself, since when are you concerned with keeping promises? Like, what? Like, what about the whole exactly as it shipped 10 years ago promise? What about the you will never see a Halo game coming out without a beta promise? What happened to those promises? And guess what, guys? I can see the future. I know what the response is to the things I'm talking about right now. The response is pandemic. The pandemic is the reason. Can we can we please focus a little less on the few months Halo Infinite was in development during the pandemic, and can we focus more on the 4.5 years that Halo Infinite was in development when there wasn't a fucking pandemic? Can we focus more on that? Oh, the pandemic. The game was in development for 5 fucking years. Shut the fuck up about the pandemic. Like, holy shit, that is nothing more than a fucking excuse. Sure, I know that definitely complicates things. 110%. That's gonna slow things down. I understand that. But this game was in development for 5 years. Like 4.5, where there was no fucking pandemic. Okay? So shut the fuck up about that. And also, another thing that Mr. Chris Lee said in this interview was, he said, upgrades are items you'll discover as you explore, rather than some sort of experience-based skill tree or other mechanics that wouldn't make much sense in Halo. Since when the fuck do you care about mechanics that wouldn't make sense in Halo? Like, what? It's so fucking funny, man, that when they say shit like this, it just completely contradicts what they've done with other Halo games. But real quick, a couple more things that I wanted to say in regards to the visuals of what we saw during this gameplay reveal for Halo Infinite. I also noticed like explosions looked kind of weak, bad. You could see when Master Chief, at this part where he grapples the fusion coil to him and throws it at the shade turret, I feel like the shade turret should explode. It's just like, it just seems like the enemy inside just disappeared, or it doesn't. I feel like there needs to be more there. Also here, where you see all these explosives get destroyed, like the explosion, it just seems kind of weak, kind of lame. I feel like there should be more to it. Maybe more sparks, but I don't know. I guess that's kind of this weird, goofy art style they're going for, and it's just this cartoony look. So I don't know. It just didn't look right to me. I'm sure I don't have the words for it, but I'm sure some of you know what I mean. And you guys remember the 2018 trailer we got for Halo Infinite? The game engine demonstration? The graphics in that, the environments, the lighting, the textures, that all look pretty damn good. And yeah, I understand that the actual gameplay is going to look different, but why even show that to us and show off these beautiful environments if that's not reflected in the final game? We don't know what the final game is going to look like, but we definitely didn't see anything like what we saw in the 2018 trailer in this gameplay demo. And like I said, sure, the game might look a lot better at launch. It probably will, but how much better? So again, that game engine demonstration trailer showed off some beautiful environments, but like, what the fuck do I care about these beautiful trees and lighting and water and rocks and everything? Like, why do I care about that if that's not in the game? Like, again, we don't know what the final game will look like. I doubt it'll look like that. I don't expect the actual gameplay to look like that, but I expect it to look a lot better than what it did in the gameplay demo. And that game engine demonstration was back in 2018. This reveal is 2020. So, why does it look so bad? And I'm also aware that 343 needs to make Halo Infinite playable on the original Xbox One, on that old hardware. But like I said, that's not really... But that's not much of an excuse, just for the fact that there's decade-old Halo games that looked better than Halo Infinite. Decade-old games that look better than Halo Infinite, which is the new Halo title. Microsoft's flagship title for the most powerful console in the world. And just launching on PC. Okay. Like, there are plenty of Halo games and non-Halo games on the Xbox One that look better than Halo Infinite. There's plenty of Halo games and non-Halo games on the Xbox 360 that looks better than Halo Infinite. There's even Halo, some facets of Halo 2 for the original Xbox looked better than Halo Infinite. And Halo Infinite, yeah, it might have more pixels in its geometry and its models and weapons. Maybe, yeah, it probably does. But that doesn't mean it looks better, because the lighting was flat as shit and everything looked untextured. Well, at least there was a jarring lack of detail in Halo Infinite. And also, I know the game is open world, right? Some people say, oh, it's open world, so they're gonna have to make some compromises. But Halo didn't need open world, right? I prefer linear style games. That's what I want. So I don't think you should be degrading the visual fidelity of this game just so open world as possible. I definitely don't think there's any excuse for decade-old Halo games looking better than Halo Infinite. Yes, even the demo we saw, the old build, there's no reason decade-old Halo games should have looked a lot better than that. No, absolutely not. And I know many other people are excited about open world. When he pulled up the map in the demo, everyone was like, oh, it's open world. I was kind of disappointed. I just want a nice linear story, start to finish. I'm cool with that. I don't want to be driving around to all these different waypoints and doing these little side objectives. And it kind of, and I'm guessing like that area will act as like kind of like a hub where you go after each mission. It's gonna break up the campaign because you go back to that play space. I don't know. That's just what I'm thinking. We gotta wait and see. I mean, ODST did that, but ODST did it right. Like, ODST, that was legit. First off, it wasn't full-on open world. It was barely open world, but it made sense, man. Like, you drop down, you got separated from your squad. Now you have to search the city and find clues, and when you find a clue, you do the flashback and play as a different ODST. That was good. Like, that fucking worked. But there weren't all these little side objectives on your map. I think Halo Infinite is going to be more reminiscent of an actual open world game than ODST ever was. I mean, I think that's pretty clear at this point. And something I just remembered, for those of you who aren't aware, the original Crysis game is getting a remaster. And a couple weeks ago, Crytek, the developers for Crysis, they scheduled a gameplay trailer for the remaster of Crysis, and it actually leaked before the scheduled date and time, and people weren't impressed with it. People were shitting all over what they saw in that trailer. They thought it didn't look like much of a remaster at all, and I think they were saying some things actually looked better in the original game. But anyways, the day after that leaked, Crytek, they put out a statement where they announced they were delaying the game, and they said, "You might be aware of the leak yesterday, and we want you to know we've seen all the reactions, the good and the bad, and we're listening. We're still working on a number of things in-game as well as the storefront. Please keep the love coming and rest assured you'll have the game you love shortly. This extra time until release will allow us to get Crysis Remastered up to the PC and console-breaking standard you've come to expect from Crysis games. We hope you understand what we're up to, and that you stay with us while we take the time to make a few more improvements. Stay tuned, and we'll have that game in your hands as soon as we possibly can." So I'm not sure if the game was going to get delayed anyway, but I found it kind of interesting that the gameplay trailer leaked early. A lot of people were hating on it. They weren't happy. And then the very next day, the developers put out a statement saying, "Hey, we saw your reactions. We're listening, and we're delaying the game to improve it." The very next day. I just thought that was pretty interesting. And I would like to see something like that from 343. Now, I understand that it's not entirely up to 343 to delay the game. Microsoft definitely wants them to push that game out. It's a launch title for the Xbox Series X, so I understand that. But again, if we could just be a little more vocal about, the feedback that you've gotten, not just the positive feedback, but the negative criticisms as well, the valid criticisms. And another thing I wanted to say about the visuals for Halo Infinite is that at times it kind of reminded me of Destiny, especially this scene right here. Like, this really looks and reminds me of Destiny 2. In the Banished, they remind me of the Red Legion from Destiny 2. Because the Red Legion, they were Cabal in Destiny, for those of you who know Destiny, but it was like a different faction called the Red Legion. And that's what like the Banished are, a different faction. And I mentioned this in my live reaction to the gameplay demo, and I'm going to say it again. I'm not a huge fan of the Banished being a significant enemy in Halo Infinite, which is what they seem to be. The Banished were introduced in Halo Wars 2, which is the only Halo game I haven't played, by the way. I've played Spartan Strike, Spartan Assault, and all the other weird games, but I've never touched Halo Wars 2. And I don't like that they're carrying over the Banished from that into Halo Infinite. Like, the Banished, that was just this brand new enemy that 343 designed for Halo Wars 2, right? There was nothing about the Banished in Halo 1, Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo 4, Halo 5, ODST, Halo Reach, any of the Halo fucking books. Well, I don't know about some of the newer, the post Halo Wars 2 books, but for the most part, the Banished have been non-existent in Halo lore, and they're supposed to be the main enemy in Halo 6. Like, come the fuck on. That's so lame. Like, there is so much to explore within Halo's lore, and I don't feel like we need to be starting these new conflicts, like with the Banished now in Halo Infinite. There's already so much that can be explored within the games, and that's a problem I had with Destiny too. There is so much cool lore within Destiny, and it just seems like with every DLC, they build this whole new story, something completely different and unrelated to anything that's happened previously. Well, maybe they're not completely unrelated, but it just feels like each DLC in Destiny 2, for the most part, is its own separate story. And I mean, there was already so much lore in Destiny 1 to be explored. You know, like when I first played Destiny 1, like, and I'm going a little off topic here, but bear with me, and you see the Traveler and you see the city below it, I was like, oh shit, I want to find out more about the Traveler. What's in the Traveler? I want to go to that city. You don't go to the city in fucking Destiny 1. You go into it for like a mission in Destiny 2. You don't know anything about the Traveler. Those triangle ships, they're starting to unveil what they're all about in Destiny 2, but it's just like, my point is, there's so much interesting lore in Destiny, and I don't think we don't need to be creating new stories in these DLCs. Like, explore what's already there and build upon that. And the same thing with Halo now, like the Banished. That could have just been a Halo Wars 2 thing. We don't need them being the main enemy in Halo Infinite. And honestly, you know what would have been a great thing to show during the gameplay demo is the Flood, the return of the Flood, or at least hint at it, maybe they did hint at it, nobody picked up on it yet, I don't know. But like, that could have been, that would have been a nice reveal to see. Oh, the Flood is back, because we know they're back in Halo Wars 2, and I'm sure they're going to be in Infinite, because if the Banished are going to be in Infinite, I'm sure the Flood will. We should have showed more of them. And there's also been rumors that the Didact from Halo 4 is still alive. That's something they could have hinted at in the Halo Infinite gameplay demo. I don't think that's something they should have shown and confirmed that, hey, look, I'm alive. No, but they could have hinted at it or something like that. And like I said, the Flood, that doesn't need to be so secretive, because we already have fought the Flood in many other Halo games, and we know they're back in Halo Wars 2, so doesn't need to be some big secret. But 343 did say they're trying to kind of recapture the feel of the original Halo CE. We kind of saw that with how in the gameplay demo, Chief crash lands on the Halo ring, and you walk out of your little escape pod and you look at the whole the whole world, kind of like it did in Halo CE. And I'm sure they're going to have like a similar encounter with the Flood, like how you discovered the Flood for the first time in Halo CE. I'm sure they'll do something similar in Halo Infinite. But again, I couldn't really care less about the Banished. It might be all right to have them in the game, but not as the main enemy. I'm not feeling that at all. And 343, they're calling Halo Infinite a spiritual reboot. And they say you don't have to be a long-time fan of the series to know what's going on and understand Halo Infinite. And honestly, I don't know how I feel about that. Like, honestly, my mindset is, yeah, if you haven't played Halo 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Reach, ODST, then yeah, you probably shouldn't know what the fuck is going on in Infinite. Am I weird for thinking that? I mean, of course you can still enjoy the game, you can still hop in and shoot some shit, and you can still enjoy the story within Infinite, but like, should you really understand the game as much as someone who played all the games does? No. And I don't think a new player is going to understand it as much as a Halo veteran would, but I just want to make it clear that I don't see a problem at all with someone who's new to Halo Infinite's their first Halo. I don't see a problem with them not understanding the story and what's going on. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It makes sense. You haven't played all the other Halo games, you probably shouldn't know what the fuck's going on in Halo 6. Now, let's move on to the weapons that we saw in the Halo Infinite gameplay demo and the gameplay trailer. Yeah, for the most part, absolutely hated what we saw with the fucking weapons. Didn't like the way the weapons looked, didn't think they looked anything like a Halo weapon should. They had these really generic designs, and the weapon sounds didn't sound like a Halo weapon should, and thought that was awful. Like from the second Master Chief started shooting his assault rifle, it just sounded so fucking generic. Didn't sound like a Halo assault rifle. And going back to the art style and the graphics, if you just look at these weapons, the textures look really flat. There's this jarring lack of detail on these weapons. If you just look at the assault rifle that we saw in Halo Infinite and compare it to the Halo Reach assault rifle, which is the same model of the assault rifle, just look at it. Look at the detail and the Halo Reach AR, and look how good it looks. And then look at the Halo Infinite assault rifle. It just looks, it doesn't look like it's textured. Here's an image that I saw on Twitter. Not too sure who created this, but if you just look, he photoshopped a scene from the gameplay, and look how much better it looks in the Photoshop. So much more detail on the assault rifle. He added a blood splatter on the ground to the Elite. That looks much better, and just the lighting in general looks great compared to the original, which looks fucking awful. Now, if I'm being honest, I could see Halo Infinite looking like the photoshopped image on the right at launch. I could see it. I could definitely see that happening, but who knows? All we have to go off right now is what we saw in the gameplay demo, the gameplay and the gameplay trailer. Yeah, it could look like that photoshopped image. We don't know. Well, besides the blood splatter, I doubt they'll do that because we got to give it the T rating, which I don't know how alien blood would hold it back from getting that T rating, but who knows? Oh, and another image I'm sure you guys seen going around Twitter is the face of this brute right here from the gameplay demo. People made a bunch of memes out of that. That's another thing. It just looks terrible. The art style, the textures in general just look really bad. They were disappointing to see. And I know there's some things I'm forgetting to mention, but yeah, it was this whole reveal was pretty underwhelming, at least for me anyways. It was pretty exciting for some others that I've seen. Other people really enjoyed it. I can't say the same. Also, another thing I wanted to mention was the visual effect when you recharge shields. I'm talking about the yellow hexagons, the gold hexagons, whatever you want to call them. That visual effect is way too intrusive. And some of you might see that as something small. You might think it's not a big deal, which I'd argue it is a big deal because it's covering your screen every time your shields recharge. Yeah, plenty of people expressed concerns with that the second they saw it. And for good reason. But it's concerning to me that that's not something 343 caught themselves. And I'm sure it'll be changed before launch. I think that's something that will be changed due to the feedback that they're getting. But again, it's kind of disturbing that 343 couldn't see the problems with that themselves. I mean, it's just so obviously bad. And you mean to tell me 343 couldn't catch that themselves? That is kind of scary. I know, again, it's something small, it's just a little visual effect, but I mean, it's all over your screen every time your shields recharge. These big blocky yellow hexagons. Yeah, the fact that 343 didn't catch that and see that as a problem, the fact that they're developing that and like no one, it actually makes it into the demo, that's scary. And it might not even be, they might have already took it out or reduced it in their current build. But still, it shouldn't even have made it to the demo. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the yellow hexagons. So now let's jump back to the weapons. I know this video is all over the place. I've got a bunch of fucking thoughts in my head right now and I'm just spewing them out as they come to me. Yeah, the weapons, very generic looking, generic sounds. I hope that pistol that we saw isn't replacing the Halo Magnum. Any of the Halo Magnums, Halo 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, they were all better than that Magnum, or it wasn't even a Magnum. I called it a Magnum in the my live reaction, but I didn't actually think it was a Magnum. I just said that because I thought, oh, this is the replacement for the Magnum. But it just looks like a fucking generic pistol that you would see in Call of Duty or Battlefield or something like that. Also, the shotgun that we saw in the Halo Infinite gameplay demo. When I first saw that shotgun, I wasn't too alarmed because I'm like, oh, this is just it's got to be like an additional shotgun that they have in the game alongside, our classic shotgun, they're not replacing the classic Halo shotgun with this fucking thing. But Chris Lee, I believe it was, in an interview said that this is the new UNSC Riot shotgun that replaces the classic shotgun. How is that replacing the classic shotgun? I know we haven't had the classic shotgun for a while. We had the fucking whatever that thing was in Halo 4 and 5 that just looked horrible compared to the classic Halo shotgun. How is this replacing it? What the fuck are we doing? What are we doing? Like, honestly, I think 343 is fucking with us. That's one thing I never understood a lot of things they do, but one thing I really never understood was the design for some of the weapons, the changes that they've made, like the Halo sniper rifle. Why do they think their design for the Halo sniper rifle is better than Bungie's? Look at what they did to the Spanker rocket launcher in Halo 5. Why did they do that? I mean, they brought the Spanker rocket launcher to the game later on. But why did you have to change it so drastically to something that looks generic as fuck? And even their Halo 4 and Halo 5 shotgun. Why? It looks obviously worse than the Bungie shotgun. It's just, like, I don't understand. And now we got this new shotgun in Halo Infinite, which might look better than Halo 4 and Halo 5 shotgun. I don't know, I gotta look at it again. But the classic Halo shotgun, why aren't we doing that? They're not doing it on purpose. I don't fucking understand. It's like they're trying to piss people off. That's what they want to fucking do. And also, what the fuck are the name of some of these weapons? The CQS-48 Bulldog. I mean, I guess you just call it the Bulldog. You got this VK-78 Commando. These just don't sound like Halo weapons. The Commando. That's an assault rifle or a submachine gun, I forget what, from Black Ops 1. Like, there was nothing Halo about these weapons. And we also saw the Pulse Carbine, which I believe it's a 3-burst, and I hope that doesn't replace you know, the carbine that we've seen in Halo 2 and Halo 3 and Halo 4 and Halo 5. I really hope it doesn't replace that. I wasn't too impressed by that. The Mangler, it just looks like a banished revolver. I guess a similar design, not really, to the Halo 3 Mauler. I don't know, I heard some people compare it to the Halo 3 Mauler, but it's not that at all. And you know, when I was watching gameplay where they were using the Mangler and shooting enemies, you know, this is something that popped into my head. It really sounded like that weapon packed a punch, and I kind of felt like the ammo for it should be like the spikes, like the spiker used in Halo 3. It shot spikes that would stick into enemies. I kind of feel like the Mangler should do something like that. You know, like you shoot a grunt in the head and he dies and he would have like a spike sticking out of his head. Like, I think that would be pretty cool. I've seen something like that in other games. We've seen it in Halo with the spiker and the needler and the needle rifle. I do think that would be pretty cool, but you know, T rating, so I guess maybe they don't want to do that. I don't know. But overall, I was big disappointed with what I saw with these weapons. Yeah, I'm becoming more and more disappointed as time goes on with this reveal. Cause like this, oh my god, there was minimal that I liked, and like I went into it with a fucking open mind. Everyone's talking about sprint. I didn't even fucking notice the dude sprint. That was like the least thing on my mind, because I was just kind of shocked by the way the game looked, and I wasn't not expecting that at all. And I'm also just used to fucking seeing sprint in Halo now, and kind of expected it to be there, so it did not stand out to me at all. But yeah, sprint is a thing, and I've said this in my live reaction and in other videos time and time again. Just because sprint's in campaign doesn't mean it'll be in multiplayer. It might, who knows. If they weren't going to do sprint and other abilities in multiplayer, I'd still expect them to have those abilities, or at least sprint, in the campaign. We also saw the grapple hook, where Master Chief, he can grapple onto enemies and pull himself to the enemies. And that was actually confirmed that those abilities, including the grappling hook, will be in multiplayer, but they will behave differently. That's been confirmed. So that's, I mean, like, okay, but who knows what that means? Who knows what that means? The grappling hook could just be a piece of equipment on like 2 maps, you know? Who knows? It might just be like laying there, you know, on 2 different multiplayer maps, which isn't the end of the world. And maybe it's like a one-time use. Who knows? We also saw the I think they called it the drop wall, similar to the drop shield in not the drop shield, the deployable cover in Halo 3, where you could stand behind it and shoot through it, but enemies on the other side could not shoot you through it. That's confirmed for multiplayer. We'll see how that works and behaves. I think at least I don't think enemies could shoot through that drop wall from the other side. I think they had to destroy it first, I believe. But if you were standing behind the drop wall, you could shoot through it. That would be terrible for multiplayer, but we'll see how it behaves differently in multiplayer. Also, we saw Master Chief clamber. I'm not a fan of clamber. Again, I'm not focusing on all those abilities too much now, because in my head, like, I'm just thinking campaign is its own thing and multiplayer will be something different. And like I'm just waiting to see multiplayer. I don't put it past 343 to include all these stupid mechanics and abilities in multiplayer, because they've done it in past Halo games, Halo 4 and Halo 5. So you know, you guys, a lot of you know me. Like, they'll probably implement shitty mechanics into the multiplayer anyway, and it'll just be shit. But who knows? Another thing that I wanted to mention about this gameplay demo is that it appears that this game is somewhat open world. I don't know if it's full-on open world or if it's just going to be something like Halo 3 ODST, but on a larger scale. Not entirely sure about that, but we do see it a part where he opens up like a map, and there's different icons and waypoints on it, and he hovers over one of them. And when he hovered over that icon, it said, "This AA cannon is controlled by a command console inside a control room underneath the cannon. Use the weapon to hack into the console and destroy them." So, you know, it does remind you of an open world game. There might be main missions and side objectives and things like that. And I've never been a fan of open world. I like linear. I definitely like linear games more. So I'm pretty disappointed about that. I really am. And like, I don't want it to be something like Destiny where like you backtrack through areas over and over and over again, and like the enemies respawn. So you might go through an area, kill all the enemies, and now you got to go back through it. The enemies respawn, and you're going back through that area. That's why I can't stand Destiny, man. I just can't stand those going through these environments over and over and over and over and over and over again, and just fighting the same enemies. It's just so fucking tedious and boring. I go through it once, and I kind of never want to be there again. Well, that's a little extreme, but you know what I'm saying. And also, I don't really care how big the world is if it's uninteresting and boring. Like, the landscape that we saw in the Infinite demo, it just wasn't that exciting to me. Like I said, it looked dull and washed out. I mean, that's more of a graphical thing, but it was just your typical rocks and trees and some water, and it didn't scream Halo at me. Let's just say that. And I feel like when in a linear game with less environments, I feel like the artists have more time to create better environments, because they don't have to do as much because there are less environments. And 343 said that the scale of the environment accessible to players is several times larger than that of the last two Halo games combined. So again, I don't care about larger environments and open world if it's less interesting. And like I said, I prefer a nice fleshed out story from start to finish in a linear fashion, and that's just me. That's me. You might love open world. And I've always felt like stories that are told in more of a linear fashion are more gripping and memorable. Like, I think it's weird how in some story games you'll play like a story mission, then you'll go back to the open world space and maybe drive around, do some side missions and shit like that, and then you do another story mission, and then go back to the open world and do all these other side objectives, and then another. And I don't like that little break in between. It's just it's weird to me. It seems unnecessary, and it breaks the game up, and not in a good way. And in Halo Infinite, you might be able to play all the story missions in a linear fashion, but like in between each mission, is there going to be this break? Am I going back to the open world, and do I have to just drive to the next fucking mission every time, or can I just hit start campaign and just go through the story missions? Like, I'd prefer that. But again, that's just me. Some of you might love open world, and that's fine. So I believe I covered everything I wanted to. I think those are my complete thoughts on the Halo Infinite gameplay demo reveal and the gameplay trailer. Something I always find is that as soon as I hit stop recording for a video, I immediately remember something that I wanted to mention in said video. That happens all the time. As soon as I hit stop recording, I'm just like, fuck, shit, I forgot to mention this, but I think I got everything. Who am I kidding? I probably forgot something. I definitely forgot something, but I just had a lot of thoughts. I had a lot of thoughts on this. A lot of people had a lot of thoughts on this. And it just comes down to that. I wasn't too impressed. One more thing. I see a lot of people making fun of Halo fans who criticize 343 and the decisions they make with their games. People say things like, oh, y'all are never happy. You just always have to find something to complain about. And they act as if people who aren't huge fans of the direction 343 has taken Halo, they act as if we're mad that other people are enjoying it, or we have a problem with other people enjoying it. We're saying you're not allowed to be happy and enjoy the game. And maybe that's true for some people, but I know it's not true for a lot of them. Definitely not true for me. If you liked it, fine, go ahead and like it. That's cool. You can be happy. I don't care if it doesn't bother me that you're enjoying it. I don't have a problem with that. I do have a problem with not calling out some of the obvious flaws and problems with the game, but whatever. And honestly, I wouldn't even say I have a problem with it. I just disagree with it. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with criticizing 343 and their games. There's plenty of valid criticisms, and 343 makes it real fucking easy to criticize their games. and criticize themselves as a company. They make that shit real fucking easy. They just hand that shit right out. But yeah, like I said, I think those are my complete thoughts. I thought the reveal of the gameplay was really overwhelming. Graphically speaking, looked like shit. Didn't like the art style. Wasn't a fan of a lot of the weapons, the sounds, everything I covered. Not a huge fan of open world. We'll have to wait and see for multiplayer, what that means. How's the grappling hook gonna work in multiplayer? I don't know. But yeah, at this point I'm just kind of lost any ounce of hope that I had left. Again, I know it was just a gameplay reveal and there's so much more to be seen and it can be changed before launch, but a lot of what I saw, like from the weapons, the design of the weapons, the sound, the art style, the graphics, and all these different things, I can definitely tell they're not taking Halo in the direction that I and many others would have hoped. And it definitely seems like they're taking Halo in a direction that significantly strays away from Bungie's Halo games. It really seems like we got the wrong people working on Halo. Like I think it's time to give Halo to a different studio. Not that would ever happen, it wouldn't, but I don't feel like the desires of longtime Halo fans and the desires of 343 really align. They don't. We want different things. For the most part, I'm sure some longtime Halo fans like the direction the 343 has taken Halo, but a lot of us don't, and for good reason, for very valid reasons. It really feels like Halo looks and feels less and less like Halo with each game 343 puts out. And I know Infinite's not out yet, but so far from what we saw in that gameplay reveal, I wasn't getting Halo vibes. Many people weren't. I have very little faith for the future of Halo in the hands of 343, especially when it comes to Halo Infinite. Like I said, I'm so unimpressed by what we saw already, and they say Halo Infinite, they're going to be supporting that for years down the road. So I doubt we're going to see like a new mainline Halo game a couple years later. I think it'll be a while. I think we're going to have Infinite. I think that's going to be the current mainline Halo game for a while. But I do enjoy some of the things 343 has done with the Master Chief Collection, importing those games to PC. I do like some of that, not all of it, but these old classic Halo games look beautiful now at 4K and uncapped frame rates, and I know that some of these MCC ports to PC definitely have their issues, but I'm just pointing out that they don't always do bad, but for the most part, it's I'm not a fan of what they've done with Halo, and I know a lot of you aren't as well. So yeah, that's gonna just about do it for this one. Those are my thoughts on the Halo Infinite gameplay demo and the trailer and some of the other news that has come out over the last couple days. Pretty disappointed. Thought it was super underwhelming, and I'm just not too hyped. I know I'm late to getting this video out. I always am. Everyone else has already got their videos out, but it's whatever. I have a backlog of videos that I want to make right now, and I'll be getting around to that and pumping them out as soon as I can. But yeah, I still haven't even made a fucking video about Halo 3 finally being on PC because some shit came up that I had to deal with, so wasn't able to do that. So yeah, thanks for watching. Those are my opinions on what we saw with Halo Infinite. It is what it is. I'll see you on the next one, guys. Peace out.